tonight, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense in Kenya coming out to ridicule that report indicting the Kenya Defense Forces, saying it is out to ridicule that. Of course, she's coming out fighting with that one. Also, Haki Africa and Muhuri Africa tonight celebrating their victory in court. We will be telling you about these and the other day's top stories. Welcome to KTN Prime this 12th day of November 2015. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole.
Made possible in circumstances that are very clearly spelled out that we do not issue visas if individuals are involved in graft or corruption.
Those people know who they are. I'm not going to tell you because of UK data protection.
Corrupt Kenyan officials could face travel bans, America says. We are not sleeping with the enemy. KDF dismisses report on Somalia sugar smuggling.
We are happy for the judgment of the court.
Leo Akime Simama.
Mombasa court unfreezes accounts of 2 blacklisted NGOs. And the European Union pledges to keep African migrants at home. We thank you for making the time to join us on the program tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Maresha Owiti. Let's start tonight with the latest in the war on graft in Kenya. Western nations weighed in today with a serious message that they are prepared to impose travel bans on corrupt individuals. Ambassadors from the United States and 11 European nations made their intentions known as they visited Kenya's Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. The diplomats say they are ready to take the drastic steps, including returning stolen assets stashed in their countries, terming corruption in the country as a crisis. Samagina has the details.
With the stench of corruption choking the nation, the envoys from European nations moved to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to register their administration's concern over the high level of graft in President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. Describing the scourge as a crisis undermining the future of the country, the ambassadors have warned of travel restrictions to top government officials implicated in graft.
We are prepared to take further steps to support the Kenyan authorities, including, when permitted by law, the return of stolen assets to the Kenyan people, or to impose travel restrictions on those responsible for graft.
The envoys were specifically outraged by runaway graft and somewhat inaction to punish the vice. They challenged the institutions responsible to act swiftly without sparing any sacred cows in their own graft.
We agreed that all allegations of corruption must be investigated. When evidence of corruption is found, those responsible must be prosecuted and, if guilty, appropriately punished, regardless of position or wealth.
Our efforts will not be spared in fighting corruption. We are not sleeping. We are not relaxing our energy at all in as far as fighting the vice is concerned.
In 2007, the UK banned David Miraria, the then Environment Minister in the Kibaki administration, from visiting the country over corruption allegations. The UK cancelled his travel visa and instructed all its airliners not to carry Miraria to the UK. In 2005, former Security Minister Chris Murungaru was subjected to similar restrictions.
We do have in place a presidential proclamation with regards to corruption, which does make possible in circumstances that are very clearly spelled out that we do not issue visas if individuals are involved in graft or corruption.
We have long had a policy where those who are implicated in graft are not permitted to travel. That's in accordance with our immigration rules cleared by the Home Secretary. There is a list of people. It's long been in place. It will continue to be in place. Those people know who they are. I'm not going to tell you because of UK data protection.
We shall not, and we will not spare any effort, and we will not be cowed by any threat, any intimidation, and any weakness that we find in the process of our activities. We shall stand firm.
In Parliament, the opposition was blasting Interior Cabinet Secretary for claiming the corruption crusade and criticism was aimed at sparking discontent, economic sabotage, and general insecurity in the country.
Kenyans are currently being treated to a well-choreographed campaign whose objective is to cause dissatisfaction among Kenyans with the intention of igniting mass action against the government.
Weak regimes world over, when they see that they have reached the brink, they start pressing every panic button in sight to try and see invisible enemies, channel out propaganda, label people, and eventually start arresting people.
Samogina, KTN News.
And that top story tonight here on KTN Prime forms the basis of our big question. Tonight we're asking you, do you think travel bans to Western nations will discourage high-level corruption in Kenya's government? Do you think travel bans to Western nations will discourage high-level corruption in government? Please start with a yes or a no, followed by a brief comment. Also leave us your name and where you are watching us from to the number 22155. It is absolutely free. You can also send us a tweet at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. The hashtag is KTN Prime. We will sample your views at the tail end of this newscast. A section of Kenyan opposition lawmakers have castigated Kenya's National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi for allegedly being used by the executive. Court leaders led by Senate Minority Leader Moses Wetangula claim Muturi is helping the executive to shield embattled Cabinet Secretary for Devolution Anne Waiguru from impeachment. Patrick Amimo reports.
The Senate Minority Leader led about 20 opposition legislators to register their disappointment over a ruling by Speaker of the National Assembly that demolished Nandi Hills MP's second attempt to have Cabinet Secretary for Devolution impeached.
The Speaker cannot now become the first and last line of defense of the corrupting government and making it difficult and impossible for Parliament to name, shame and parade those who have been found with their hands on the till.
The Speaker told lawmakers that the impeachment motion could not proceed because Alfred Keter had not stated the specific grounds on which he wants Waiguru kicked out.
The allegation of gross violation requires that the charges are framed must disclose a gross violation of the Constitution or other written law. 2, precision of charges. The charges or grounds relied on must state with precision the articles or even sub-articles of the Constitution or provisions of other written law that have been alleged to have been grossly violated.
This motion is being treated, it falls under special motions. But there is another category that is coming up, Mr. Speaker. It is becoming special out of special motions.
The Speaker invoked Article 1 of the Standing Orders, which gives him powers to issue directives on matters that are not clearly defined in the House procedures.
Speaker is again mandated to use precedents, traditions, customs, and usages, even from other jurisdictions, as long as they are consistent with the usages, traditions, and customs of this country.
Where a law or a rule bestows discretion on any office holder, you cannot use that discretion arbitrarily. You must exercise it judiciously.
Not on this. Not on this.
The Speaker's ruling caused uproar in the House and an early adjournment following exchanges between Jubilee and the opposition legislators.
There cannot be a point of order on the ruling of a speaker. Never. It has never happened. No.
And looking at even his body language, what the Speaker was doing was to protect Waiguru. He was not elucidating any legal norm that we know. He was simply given instructions to go and defend Waiguru at all costs, and he did.
But the opposition lawmakers gave kudos to Senate Speaker Ekwe Efuro over a ruling he made Wednesday on presidential memos. The opposition has accused the executive of using the memos to legislate for Parliament. The opposition hopes Efuro's ruling will uphold Parliament's legislative role.
He ruled that a presidential memorandum coming to Parliament, if it does not get the threshold vote in the Senate of 24, delegations collapses and is mailed to purgatory to rest there. I think that was very landmark, and it helps us take control of those who think they come to parliament as voting machines.
The opposition also condemned last week's remarks by Cabinet Secretary for Interior Joseph Kaiseri that current debate about runaway corruption was a ploy to incite the public against the government. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
Kenyan Defence Forces have dismissed as absolute garbage a report by a rights group claiming KDF was involved in smuggling sugar from Somalia into Kenya. The report released early today by Journalists for Justice group claimed that KDF was taking cuts totaling almost 5 billion shillings a year in charcoal and sugar smuggled through Kismayu. KTN's Noah Otieno reports.
The report by Journalists for Justice rights group seems to paint an incredible picture that suggests that the smuggling of charcoal and sugar through Kismayu, the southern Somali port where KDF has a base, could be benefiting even the Al-Shabaab group. The report claims that KDF levies a tax of $2 or 200 shillings per bag of charcoal and another $2 or 200 shillings per bag of sugar leaving the port of Kismayu. The rights group alleges that the Al-Shabaab terror outfit and the regional Jubaland authorities also benefit directly, with Al-Shabaab levying a tax of at least 100,000 shillings on each truck leaving Kismayu for Kenya. The numbers in the report are mind-boggling. The report indicates that KDF collects up to $50 million a year in this racket, that is just over 5 billion Kenya shillings. Al-Shabaab supposedly collects about 1.2 billion shillings a year in the smuggling alone. But the Kenya Defence Forces spokesman Colonel David Obonyo trashed the report, dismissing it as incorrect. Obonyo said the KDF cannot be doing business with the Al-Shabaab, which they are supposed to be fighting. The UN Security Council banned charcoal exports from Somalia in 2012 to cut a stream of financing for the Al-Qaeda-linked group Al-Shabaab. But the United Nations and other experts have said that trade continued after that through the southern Somali port of Kismayu, where Kenyan forces have a base. Sugar is claimed to be imported through Kismayu and smuggled across the border into Kenya, where it is sold without paying the Kenya government taxes imposed to protect the local sugar industry. Noah Otieno, KTN News.
The Kenya government's Ministry of Defence has responded to these claims against the Kenyan Defence Forces. The Defence Cabinet Secretary Rachel Omamo has said these allegations are not new but follow a pattern of repeated claims intended to tarnish the reputation of KDF. Omamo says that these reports are a consistent fabrication of KDF's role in Sector 2. Their purpose, according to the government, is to create hostility towards KDF troops in Somalia. The government goes on to say that the Kenya Defence Forces have made great strides in preventing illegal sugar business along our common borders. Omamo writes in her statement that the reports by Journalists for Justice deliberately fails to acknowledge that KDF does not control the seaport, nor are they managing the Kismayu harbour. The port, according to the Kenya government, is managed by a committee established by the federal government of Somalia and the Jubaland administration. The Ministry of Defence in Kenya, therefore, categorically refutes and rejects the allegations of complicity in the illegal charcoal trade in Somalia. The statement has been signed by the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Defence, Rachel Omamo. Now, the High Court in Mombasa has cleared two human rights groups, Muhuri and Haki Africa, from terror-related charges. The court has ordered that the accounts of the two organizations be unfrozen. KTN's Coast reporter Francis Ontomwa reports.
Celebrations that will mirror something akin to breaking loose from chains of bondage. A momentous judgment had just been made in their favor, and what better way to express jubilation than put up a carnival mood outside the corridors of the judiciary. Months of staying in the cold have been ended by this judgment.
Have come to the conclusion that the petitioners' rights to fair administrative action afforded them by Article 47(1) of the Constitution were violated by the publication of Gazette Notice number 36 of 7th April 2015. It was tainted with procedural impropriety. This raises the question.
Judge Anyara Emakule said the state had acted unfairly in freezing accounts of the organizations, attacking a Gazette notice that led to the closure as having been improperly administered. He argued that the petitioners had not been accorded enough time to respond to the notice.
There was no adequate notice to the petitioners to adequately prepare and answer the accusations raised against them.
Muhuri and Haki Africa had been named alongside 83 other individuals and organizations linked with claims of funding terror. The two bodies were named as being among key financiers of terror group Al-Shabaab. The organization is now keen to ride on the new proclamation and bounce back to business, even as their top priority remains rebuilding reputation.
We are happy for the judgment of the court because it lays a very good interpretation of the constitutional rights.
Jamii imepata shida kwa miezi 7 hivi sasa, lakini leo haki imesimama na tutafanya kazi na serikali na tuko tayari kuendelea kusaidia jamii yetu.
Meanwhile, still in Mombasa, 12 teachers were today arraigned before the High Court to answer to charges of being in possession of examination materials. The 12 from the same school are said to have been tracked circulating examination questions online. They deny the charges and were released on a 500,000 shillings bond with similar surety or an alternative cash bail of 200,000 shillings pending the December 14th hearing. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Daring Abroad series, and today we focus on a lady from Oslo city in Norway who's telling us about what she's doing in the tourism sector and why the citizens of Norway would like to come visit Kenya.
In Oslo, the capital city of Norway, there is yet another daring Kenyan, daring to make a contribution to the tourism sector in a unique way, daring to push traffic to Kenya.
It started in 1994 when I met my husband in Kenya. I was working at Kenya Airways cargo department. So we met in 1994, and when he returned back to Norway, I came to visit him. And that is it. I never went back to Kenya. Okay. My husband is Norwegian. We have been traveling a bit in Kenya, and we have been to Masai Mara. We fell in love with Kenya. We felt the passion. Somebody needs to tell the world how Kenya is beautiful. Show them the hidden treasure. And that's how we started the company.
Mm-hmm. Rosemary says she may be married miles and miles away from her mother country, but the Kenyan in her, literally speaking, never took a backseat.
We registered the company in Kenya. It's a Kenyan company, Keno. The word Keno means Kenya and Norway.
Unlike tour operators based in Kenya, yet have to tap into the tourism market abroad, Rosemary is right in the middle of the source.
They tell us what they want to see in Africa, which country they want to visit. Mostly we prefer them to come here and sit with us. They sit with us, we open a map, they look at the different section, we give them ideas, and they say this can suit us, this can suit us. Then we tailor-made the whole package for them. And that's from the flight, all the transfers, accommodation, or safaris in Kenya are covered in that package.
She says what sets her apart from competition is her ability to offer out of the ordinary packages.
People concentrate today on safari and the beach. We can, for example, give the example of the Sagana River. The clans can do the rafting in this big, huge river. Others can do the canoeing. They can do the fishing. Then the other thing is we have the tea plantation, we have the coffee plantation. What a good experience for a family visiting just an ordinary family, picking tea with them, coffee, buying some, bringing some back home.
Who are the competitors?
There are many. When we started, we did not have any competitors. We had maybe 2 or 3 competitors. And after some years, we saw a lot of companies coming up, a lot of them selling packages. But then something happened that all of us, we are competing on the prices, lowering the prices and not keeping the quality of the trip. So we thought, what do? We have to put something unique aside, and that's when we came with all these different other packages.
Most tourists from the West visit Kenya to see animals and enjoy sunshine that is limited in their countries.
Norwegians, mostly what they come for safari. They want to see the animals safaris. And because they have like 2 weeks, mainly they have 14 days, 2 weeks. So what we do is they want 1 week on safari and 1 week relaxing in a good beach where they have the sunshine, because here is winter time. Most of we go for 6 months with winter.
The market, Rosemary says, is very sensitive to security issues. Any conflict and, in addition, matters health have a great impact on the sector.
For example, the Westgate and the Garissa. We had another issue in Ilam. It really affected us. And even those people who are under pipeline, who are planning to travel, they don't proceed. They choose another destination, either Tanzania or South Africa. But we have a huge, because as we sell like 10 other countries in Africa. So we have other packages which we can offer them. Then they came the outbreak of Ebola. It's very far than from Norway to West Africa, actually. But the people want to know that. We had some very good years, and that's from maybe 2010, 2011.
When it comes to marketing Kenya's tourism sector abroad, Rosemary has some reservations on how it is done.
The Kenya Tourist Board should be on board with us, doing this together with us. That's how we feel. But they have their own strategy of marketing, the Norway, the Scandinavian, which we really don't understand. Because I feel I am very promoted in promoting Kenya in Norway. There are other companies, not only me, who are like this, maybe 5 companies. If we can join those 5 companies, promote Kenya very deeply into the roots, go to the people in the rural area, do the road show, meet the people where they are. Not just going in the main cities and back home, but reach people, give them our music, our culture, let the ambassador join us. We'll be like a team. We'll promote Kenya in a very positive way.
Actually, I'm from Afghanistan, but since 7 years I'm living in Norway. Kenya is very nice country, and the people are very kind, and they're working very hard. So, and also the tea and cafe of Kenya is very popular in the world.
I know Kenya because of great nature there, wildlife, wild animals, swan, safari. I read about safari to Kenya in Norwegian publication. And actually I'm dreaming to travel there for safari one day.
The question is, can this be a two-way traffic?
Business people, they may be coming here to do a certain business, but they will come here, they will stay in a hotel alone. We want to meet them at the airport. We want them to take excursions with us in Norway, in the Scandinavians. We want to show them the other part, actually. They can have money. They are heading to Dubai, China. Why not Scandinavian?
And that's daring abroad.
News. Now, they say when it rains, it pours, a saying that perfectly fits a national carrier, Kenya Airways, in 2015. Hot of announcing a historic loss, the airline was at it again, this time announcing yet another loss of 11.9 billion shillings in the 6 months to September, cementing what has obviously been a year of reckoning for the airline. Here's Adelaide Changole with the numbers and what lies in store for KQ as it struggles to regain its wings.
We are taking that into account as we develop.
On the 30th of July, the country's national carrier, Kenya Airways, announced a record-breaking 29 billion shilling loss for the full year ended March 2015. At the time, everyone thought the worst had come to pass. But today, the airline unveiled yet another shocker to investors and Kenyans at large.
The situation at the end of the year is a loss after tax of 11.9 billion compared to 10.4 billion last year.
The increased losses came despite flat revenues during the period and lower end overhead costs, which cut the firm's operating losses from 10.455 billion shillings last year to 2.17 billion this year. However, the firm was hit by a 104% increase in finance costs, brought about by increased debt the firm has taken on in a bid to fund its turnaround strategy. As a result, the airline's total debt stands at 168 billion shillings, up from 148 billion last year.
An increased operating expenses and cost environment with the fleet growth and the renewal over the last 3 years. But more importantly, the fact that we have not executed from a commercial point of view the plan that we set, particularly in targets from a revenue perspective.
And despite reducing the fleet from 50 to 48, which raised the firm's cabin factor from 64 to 68% during the period, the airline still posted higher cost per seat, which cut yields and ate into the firm's bottom line. And this continued what has become a worrying trajectory for KQ's profit numbers.
The last 4 years, clearly our performance has deteriorated, leaving a profit gap of around $200 million. And an immediate need for us to improve our short-term cash position as well as revisit our long-term financing.
But Kenya Airways has called for patience as it executes its 24-point turnaround strategy that is hinged on reducing cost and enhancing connectivity to move KQ back into profit-making territory. Spearheaded by the McKinsey Group, the strategy includes plans to increase cash flow and sales and optimize the loan structure that KQ hopes will return it back to its feet. The firm is also working on a refinancing plan with the Afrexim Bank that will unlock liquidity and give KQ the headroom needed to maneuver a turnaround.
We are working, first of all, to refinance the short-term debt and term out and extend the tenures of that short-term debt. We are in discussions with local banks on that, and we have made good progress. We are also in discussions, as Alex mentioned, on getting additional short-term debt, really just to cover our position right now.
The airline also says it will be looking to reverse the negative equity position, which worsened from 6 billion shillings last year to 33.9 billion during the 6 months this year. As it stands, experts say the negative equity position makes the airline technically insolvent.
We take this issue seriously, and we are working towards reversing it as soon as possible.
Despite the turbulence, experts maintain that there is still hope for the struggling airline, citing the 1.04 billion shillings generated from KQ's operations in the 6 months compared to the 2.2 billion shilling losses in the same period last year.
It shows that there is room that the airline can be turned around if sufficient capital is deployed to the airline.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
As the public transport sector in Kenya grows, with it has come congestion due to increased number of passenger service vehicles, public service vehicles. This is just one of the challenges that the sector must address going forward. The question is, how is this going to happen? The Eastern Africa Transport Acting Cabinet Secretary for Transport in Kenya, James Macharia, said plans are underway to build high-capacity bus rapid transport infrastructure and digitized payment systems. KTN's Joy Doreen Bira reports.
They are referred to as matatus in Kenya, taxis in Uganda and daladalas in Tanzania, the most used means of public transport in the region. But while these PSVs ferry millions of passengers to and from different routes, this is not without setbacks to this thriving sector.
That is bringing in all these problems, and we made a request to the President that there are things that needs to be done. We will support him to fight corruption in public transport to the latter.
The poor road infrastructure, dominated by traffic snarl-ups and poor enforcement of traffic regulations, have given the impression of poor road safety records in the region. To deal with this, the stakeholders who met at the Eastern Africa Transport Conference in Nairobi recommend effective mass transport in urban centers like the Bus Rapid Transport BRT.
For this to happen, transport circles and companies need to build their capacity and be better organized to engage both national and regional governments to realize success.
Service providers like General Motors are also playing a role in decongesting urban centers with locally assembled high-capacity graffiti-branded 30 to 40 sitters like these buses. These buses are slowly phasing out the 14-seater matatus and SACCOs and now being asked to digitize their payment systems to curb corruption in the sector.
What we wanted to demonstrate to them was that with a higher occupancy vehicle and a new vehicle, you are saving on maintenance cost. You are saving on hire of driver and conductor, because one 33 bus is 2.5 14-seater buses, which need four conductors, 4 drivers, the cost of operation and all that.
East African cities like Dar es Salaam have introduced the BRT system. Ethiopia has built a fast tram system, and countries like Kenya, Uganda, whose road infrastructure is choking with increased private car transport, are yet to build infrastructure to accommodate these systems. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN News.
Time for KTN Sports. My name is Lynn Washira. After a one-year absence, the annual Athletics Kenya Awards will return this year under the theme Top of the World Uniting Kenya, as a way of celebrating the Kenyan team that ensured the East African country finished at the top of the medal standings for the first time in the World Athletics Championships history. The awards gala will be held on the 10th of December in Nairobi. The year 2015 can be termed as the most successful year in Kenya athletics. The World Athletics Championships team emerged top of the world in Beijing, while the marathoners have continued to stamp authority in road running. It's for this reason that stiff competition is expected to play out as a panel of judges get down to selecting the best of the best to be fitted at this year's Athletics Kenya Awards.
Being on top of the world after the good performance or the exemplary performance we had in Beijing, we have chosen a theme for this annual Golden Gala, and our theme this year is Top of the World Uniting Kenyans. We feel that the performance by our athletes, especially in Beijing, united Kenyans for the period that we were there.
Despite the outstanding performance by the Beijing team, athletes who took part in other events will be considered in the awards.
It's not just the team that went to Beijing that performed well. We also had the team that went to Cali for the World Youth Championships, and they emerged second overall. So that is a performance that we'd like also to appreciate. We had other teams like the junior team which went to Addis. We had the Africa Youth that was in Mauritius. So all this we want to put together.
The best performers will be awarded under 10 different categories, which will culminate with the Athlete of the Year Award, Field Athlete of the Year Award, Young Athlete Award, Middle and Long Distance Award will focus on track competitions, while the Cross Country and Road Running Award will also be up for grabs. Athletics governing body Athletics Kenya is already focusing on the Rio Olympics.
We have discussed with the President of National Olympic Committee of Kenya and the team of NOC so that we see how we can work together to prepare the team to go to Rio Olympics next year in August.
Meanwhile, Athletics Kenya Vice Chairman David Okeo, who is also a member of the Medical Commission, has admitted that it would be ignorant for Kenya to bury its head in the sand as far as doping is concerned.
I can't deny that there is, because you see there are a few cases that have already people have come across, and those cases, if I talk about track and field in Kenya, there are cases that we have dealt with in according to the rules that are set. Because there is always a due process to be followed. You see, if you are accused that you have stolen somebody's property, for example, we cannot just take you to jail without knowing whether you really stole or not.
Various stakeholders have been calling on the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, to shift its attention to Kenya and Ethiopia. And to some rugby news now, with days drawing closer to Africa's 2016 Olympic qualifiers, the Kenyan Sevens team departed the country driven by a strong desire to shine at Barnard Stadium in Johannesburg on 14th and 15th of November, where the Olympic qualifiers will take place. And as Moses Wahisi reports, Team Kenya is optimistic that the single slot available in South Africa is theirs to lose.
The Kenya National Sevens team departed for the Rugby Africa 2016 Olympics qualifiers in high spirits and confident of a good display at the showpiece in South Africa. Shujaa have been tipped to tear apart other 11 countries so as to seal the single qualification slot, and save for a few names, Benjamin Ayimba's squad is a star-studded one with experienced hands ready to star Kenya to Rio.
We are going out with the mentality that every game is a final, and we have to take it as such. We've got to be very serious about, because everyone else is coming at us, we've got to be very serious about what you want to achieve. And I think it's that one chance that in your lifetime that you don't want to joke around with.
Jeff Uluoch of Homeboys and Frank Wanyama, who was outstanding during the National Sevens circuit, will be making their senior international outing with Shujaa, a side that is driven to do what they need to do so as to bag the single slot up for grabs in their South Africa Rio 2016 qualifiers.
It's not going to be easy. It's a big tournament for us. It has come once in a year, and I think we have done what we were expected to do. We have trained very hard. We've gotten ours in orders. We have ticked all the boxes that we needed to tick. We are focused. We know what we are needed to go and do, and we're heading to South Africa just to get the trophy.
We had our turbulences, but now the team has already stabilized, and we really want to go out there and put a statement and hopefully kick off the season well, because this is how we're kicking off the season. So for the guys who are watching, they should keep faith and keep up with the team.
Shujaa is seated top and placed in Pool A with Senegal, Mauritius and Madagascar, and will open their qualifiers with a game against Mauritius on Saturday. Moses Wahisi, KTN Sports.
In football, the Cape Verde national football team is optimistic of collecting maximum points from Harambee Stars in their World Cup qualifiers tie. The Blue Sharks will take on Harambee Stars on Friday 4 p.m. Kenyan time at the Nyayo National Stadium, with the return match slated 4 days later.
The last time Harambee Stars played Cape Verde's Blue Sharks was in 2003, where Stars emerged 1-0 winners as Kenya sought qualification for the Cup of Nations. The tide has, however, turned for both teams. As Harambee Stars descended down the rankings, Cape Verde, on the other hand, had their fortunes spiraled in world football. Currently ranked 4th in Africa and 32nd in the world, the Blue Sharks have emerged from the shadows of footballing powerhouses in Africa to conquerors of the game today. Having failed to qualify for the World Cup in the last edition, the Sharks are seeking a 2018 spot, but standing in their way is Harambee Stars, a hurdle which they are seeking to eliminate.
We analyze every team we played against, and we respect Kenya, a strong team, good players, physically very strong.
We had a very good preparation for this game. We are ready. We know it's a different game because we don't decide the game only tomorrow. And our target, first of all, is come here to make the first part of the job.
With Coach Rui Akwa's squad boasting of an entirely European-based squad, the tactician is hoping for maximum points despite being worried by the Kenyan attackers.
Attackers with quality, really, and most of them dangerous and very, as I said, very strong team physically.
No, I think because the football is not one player, it's 11. So and also the guys come in. We must be focusing all of them because it's a sport of is a team, not individual sport. So
Kenya will take on Cape Verde on Friday evening at 4 p.m. Kenyan time, with the return match expected 4 days later. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Preparations for the 9th edition of the CAS International Marathon are in top gear as the organizers prepare for the event on Sunday. Last year's winners Philip Kagongo and Agnes Chepkosgei will not be defending their titles. The county government of Uasin Gishu has sponsored 300 athletes to the event, scheduled for Sunday as a way to discover more talent among athletes. Elgeyo Marakwet and Nandi County will sponsor 50 and 400 athletes respectively. The marathon, which is held annually, has continued to churn turn out the best marathoners in the world, among them Geoffrey Mutai, who has won Berlin, Boston and New York marathons. He finished second in the 2007 Cass Marathon. The technical team, led by Benjamin Limo, added that the route has been marked and ready for the Sunday events.
Sasa last year nilikuwa number 32. Sasa sijui leo ndio najaribu.
Cass Marathon, I think we still have 3 categories of events, just like last year. And the 3, if you can remember, 42 kilometers, both men and women, 10 kilometers, both men and women, and a category of 5 kilometers fundraise for all the participants.
We've done this because we want to engage most of our youth in sporting activities so that they can be able to avoid being lured into alcoholism. And out of it, many of them will discover talents that previously they had not known they have. And knowing that sports is one of those rich events, we are building also new millionaires.
Curtail corruption in government, and these are the travel bans that have been proposed by the Western nations, that's from the European Union and the United States of America. The results are in. It's almost half and half. 58% of you say yes, 42% of you say no. Let's take a look at your feedback. You say yes, these guys steal our money, take their families and children abroad to enjoy, and later use us for their political gain and ignite peaceful Kenyans to fight each other. Let them be banned. That's Evans Butala from Nairobi on our SMS line. On Twitter, Paula Cha says, citizens don't care about denial of visas by Western nations of corrupt leaders. All they want is the loot returned. Then there's another one here. Kenyans are their brother's keepers. When an individual in position steals, he does it on behalf of his tribe. Tribalism is our undoing. We never learn. That is Alice from Eldred. Candy in Mombasa says the ban on travel is the least that can be done. Corrupt individuals can't be threatened by that. Kenya needs to come up with methods to handle its own problems. We thank you for your feedback on the show tonight. And thanks for watching KTN Prime indeed throughout the week. It's been great having you with me. I'll take a quick break next week. But do stay right here on KTN News Channel 274 on DSTV, because Kasim Mohammed is up next with Inside Somalia.